Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
When someone finally recognizes that the supposedly benevolent religious group they've been deeply involved in for years is in fact a manipulative cult, it might be nearly impossible to leave without suffering serious consequences. Stay tuned for one man's harrowing escape. Mission Evolution Radio Show is coming to you around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With us this hour to share his experience of escaping a cult is Don Johnson. Don, the author of Living a Conscious Life, is a former monk and business leader turned writer and executive coach. His spiritual quest began as a college student and led him on a 10-year journey where he lived in ashrams and taught meditation in North America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. In his 30s, he left the ashram. Why? His website, BeMoreConscious.com. Don, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thank you, Gwilda. Pleasure to be back.
So you claim to have escaped a cult. How did you first become involved in the thing?
Yeah, so, like you said in the beginning, when I was a young guy in college, we go back into, 1972, I was searching, and somebody told me about a young Indian guru who at the time was 15 years old, and I had a profound experience as I heard about what this person was telling me, and something inside of me just was really, really curious about what the offer was. And the offer was pretty simple. The offer was, I've got some techniques that can help turn your attention inwards, and through these techniques, you can experience inner truth, inner peace, call it what you might. And that's what attracted me, because that's what I really wanted at that time. I was just looking for something within me that was more meaningful and fulfilling than what I had been, doing over the last few years at school. And, one thing kind of led to the next, and I got very involved in the organization. And I can tell you more about that, in a moment. But suffice it to say that, my initial reason was the message that I heard was about bringing peace. And this was the message of Prem Rawat. And I can tell you a little bit more about him as we go forward as well. So, the message was pure, and it was embodied in, imagine how would you say this, the visual. You've got a young child professing to bring peace. There's innocence, it's purity, it's all those sorts of things. So, the package looked good from the inside, and the techniques that he taught weren't his. They're ancient techniques that have been used for many, many years by yogis in India, in different forms of practice. So he conveyed those techniques, and I found that the techniques actually helped. They worked. I would sit down to meditate. I felt great.
So Don,
Mm-hmm.
He's a 15-year-old boy, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
who is Prem Rawat? What made
Yeah.
him tick?
Yeah.
I
So
mean, was he backed by adults? Was he put up to this? What?
Yeah. So let me tell you the story, because I think you may find it interesting, and hopefully our listeners will find it interesting too. So we go back to Hardwar, India, which is in the north part of India near Nepal, and we'll go back into the 50s and the 60s, and there's a guru there. His name was Sri Hans Rawat, and this was Prem Rawat's father. So this man was teaching these techniques. He had a following in India. He passed away in about 1965. Prem Rawat was 8 years old, and he was the youngest of 4 brothers. And so when his father passed unexpectedly, there was a meeting, and in one room there was the mother and some other elders of the tribe, so to speak, and there was a discussion about who would fill his shoes. Typically in India, who would fill the shoes would be the elder brother. However, in another room, there was some influential younger followers of Sri Hans, and one of them in particular led a small group of colleagues, and they said, no, we're going to pick the young boy, Prem Rawat, and we're going to put him on the stage, and he's going to proclaim that he is now carrying on his father's work. And that's what they did. So he went on stage before the other group could interfere. And before they knew it, he was recognized by the thousands and thousands of followers that were gathered there to mourn his father's death. So from that point on, he finished his schooling in India. And then when he was about 12 years old, some hippies from Europe and America found their way to India, and they found him, and they became enamored with what they'd heard from him, and they sponsored him to come to the UK and the US. And when he came over there in 1971 and 1972, he discovered, of course, without too much of a surprise, that there was a big thirst for this, Eastern spirituality. And this was the time that, the Beatles were following Maharishi. There were other gurus. It was the time of peace, love, the, anti-war culture change, etc. So Prem Rawat became, he started to get a following in the US in those early days. And I can tell you more about that in just a sec. Yeah.
So he was about 12 at this point.
Yes, he was. Mm-hmm.
So he was how old when his father passed? Did you say 5? Eight. There's no way he could have taken on all the teachings by 8.
No.
So who's the man behind the throne? Who's prompting this young man?
Yeah. Well, Prem Rawat at that young age had been following his father around India, sitting on stage with him, speaking, listening to his father, that sort of thing. So he was taught the meditation techniques by his father when he was young, I think maybe even at 6. And so he was kind of a little bit of a prodigy. And so he would speak, as a child would, about peace and fulfillment and these sorts of things. I mean, who knows where he got it, right? But that was what he did. So when he became 12 or 13 in those early days, he would get up on stage. He would speak for 45 minutes, an hour at a time. And he would, convey this message of, I can show you peace. I am here to bring you peace. I am the master. I am the enlightened one. Basically saying, I'm the second coming of Jesus, is really what he was saying.
So how did Prem Rawat's presentation differ from his actual identity?
Well, this is where we start to peel the onion, right? Meaning, so here's a story that would answer your question. I'm 21 or 20 when I heard about him. I got involved in the organization. I did various activities. I lived in an ashram. I became celibate. I became a monk, along with a whole bunch of other people, strong believers. And in 1977, I was in Philadelphia. I was a community leader for the community of people that were there, a couple hundred people, which was fairly typical in cities around the U.S. and around the world. By this time, he had a following of 10, 15,000 people in the U.S., same in Europe, same in South America. So you're talking a pretty good worldwide following by the mid-70s. And I had heard a friend of mine just in 77 went out to lunch, and he said, have you heard about Prem Rawat's drinking? And I said, what? What are you doing? Were you kidding me? He goes, no. He said, he's out there knocking back, multiple glasses of cognac every night in Denver.
How old was he? Is he still 12?
15, he's 15, 16 years old at this point,
Okay.
right? And go ahead, you had a question, I think.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Okay. So, at this point, so I hear this and my head spins a little bit. I'm thinking, wait a second. This is the guy who's talking about how we really need to be fulfilled from within. And this experience, it's called the knowledge, self-knowledge, if you will, is the kind of the output of these techniques, this knowing yourself. And my experience was that when I practiced this meditation, I felt really good. I felt full, I felt happy, I felt peaceful, lots of love, lots of light. I mean, all the things you might imagine if you hear about meditation. So I'm trying to justify this in my mind. I'm thinking, wait a second, he's getting blind drunk, and night after night, and yet he's preaching something contrary to that. So I had a doubt in my mind about this, and yet what happens, and of course at the time I didn't realize I was in a cult, because you don't know you're in a cult until you leave. That's the only time you wake up to it. So I'm thinking, well, there must be something wrong with me, because lots of people, this guy that I had lunch with didn't seem to bother him at all, didn't seem to bother all the people that were around Prem Rawat who were waiting on him, so on. So I was puzzled by it, Gwilda. I really was. And then a month later, Prem Rawat asked me to come to Malibu and be one of his instructors. And this was to kind of replace the people that had come from India, mostly older men that had followed his father. In India, they were called Mahatmas, great soul. And these are people that on the guru's behalf would go out, speak, conduct sessions, select people to teach them the meditation techniques, this kind of thing. So it was a great honor.
Well, we're going to have to leave a little bit of a cliffhanger here, because
Cool.
It's time for us to take a station break. Don and I will return very shortly, so don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
One people, one nation, searching through the night. One people, one nation, searching for the light. The end has come, the night has fallen. I have reached the end of days. What's real is not, reason fails me.
What are the inner workings of a cult? With us this hour discussing the anatomy of a cult is Don Johnson. Don is the author of Living a Conscious Life. Don, we've been talking about how you found out you were in a cult but didn't know you were in one. Let's define cult. It's a word that's used a lot, but what exactly is a cult?
Yeah, a cult is where the leader gets all the money. A cult is where the leader can do anything he wants and not be wrong. A cult is following a set of principles and beliefs without questioning them, and many other things. But I think you kind of get the drift.
So it exploits its members.
The members get exploited because they give their power away, and the cult leader professes to be something more than he is, which is what it was with the case in Prem Rawat. In other words, what you see is really not what's really there. There's a lot of, in the case of Prem Rawat, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Well, the pressure of being that age and being a prodigy must have been unbelievable. I can't believe that someone wasn't
Yeah.
present for him to guide him a little bit. I mean, he's still a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah. And that's, that's really the way that I look at it too, is that this kid was tasked with bringing peace to the world, so to speak. That was his father's mission. That's what he believed his mission was: bring peace to the world, one person at a time. And I think in the 70s, there was the original president of the organization that sponsored his activities was called Divine Light Mission. And the president at the time was a guy called Bob Mishler. And when he left Prem Rawat a few years later, he did a radio interview in Denver. And in the interview, he described the fact that at the time, and this was 73, 74, so Prem was 15 years old, 14, 15, something like that. Bob said, Prem would come to him often and cry on his shoulder saying, I don't know if I can do this.
Oh,
And,
kid. Yeah.
Right? And so imagine the psychology. So, of course, the drinking comes in. And, of course, the obsession with the wealth and the power, comes in. So I see Prem Rawat as somebody who came with good intention, but when we open ourselves up to the dark side of our psyche, we get into trouble. And I think that's what happened to Prem Rawat, is that he got consumed by the shadow side of his personality. He really had no father after the age of 8. He just had people around him who never pushed back on him. He could do whatever he wanted. He was never held to account because he was the master.
So people are looking for someone outside of themselves to be the master of their lives, if you will. Is that what sets them up to be vulnerable to be part of a cult?
I think of my own experience, and people ask me, like, well, what were you looking for? Well, I wasn't looking for a guru. I was looking for inner peace. And the message that came was, this guy can show you these techniques to help you. But then I think what happens is you get involved in a tribe, and you get involved in a community of people who all start thinking alike and who all are basically saying the same thing. So there's this brainwashing effect that takes place. And there's also this sense of belonging. And that's what I experienced in Divine Light Mission. Before I knew it, and it happened very, very subtly, all of a sudden, I became a mouthpiece for what I was hearing. And in order to fit in, you've got to play the game. Because if you don't play the game, you're not part of the tribe. And getting kicked out of the tribe is dangerous. And, our brains go into, kind of reptilian brain. I might get killed because in prehistoric times, being kicked out of the tribe was basically a death sentence. So our brains respond that way. So I think it happens very subtly, where all of a sudden you find yourself in this. And then, I was committed because I believed that if I gave my full self to this mission and I got involved in the organization, I was doing a good thing in terms of helping the world be a better place. So I don't think I was paying attention at all to the fact that I was giving my power away. Not until later. Then I realized that. Yeah.
So when you describe a cult, it sounds like you're describing just about every subculture out there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
my
yes.
question is,
right.
are we involved in humongous amount of cults, or am I misunderstanding this?
Yeah, I think there's cults everywhere. You can look at the election that just happened. There's a Democratic cult, there's a Republican cult, there's an independent cult.
If you're
Yeah.
looking at religion, say for instance, or even academia,
Yeah.
science versus arts, everything is where people get together, believe the same thing,
Right.
and if you don't profess to believe the same thing, you're no longer part of the tribe.
You got it. And it all goes down to what you said. It's all based on belief. if I believe something to be true, then I filter everything through that belief, don't I?
And we all do that.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And
So is it a matter of degree, Don, that makes a cult? I mean, we decided that most everything's a cult out there to a certain degree. What makes a cult damaging? What makes a cult something that you need to recognize and get the heck out of?
yeah, you know, for speaking for myself and also speaking for other people that I'm involved with who are now outside the cult, I would say this: you, the price that you pay when you give away your power is you lose your own power, and you lose the ability to stand up for what you really believe in, so to speak. So, for me, I look at it and go, well, what happened to me? I didn't reclaim my power and freed myself until I fully saw what was behind the curtain with Prem Rawat, or take him out and put anybody in there. And then you realize that the harm that's done is, in the case of Prem Rawat, people gave millions of dollars inheritances. People are still putting them in their wills. So he's made multi millions of dollars off of people who believed that the more they devoted themselves to him, the more experience of this knowledge, this inner peace that they could have. So the criminality there to me is absolute deception and fraud. And he did it intentionally because he was told early on that if he didn't keep doubling down on the importance of devotion to him, it would hurt the cash flow. And when he heard that, he said, forget it, we're going to keep doubling down.
Did he actually say that, or is that
Yes.
an assumption? He actually said that.
That is a quote from the former president of Divine Light Mission, Bob Michelin. That
And
was in the radio interview.
and how when do you think this flip took place? Because, when he started, money doesn't mean much to an 8-year-old, let's face it, or even a 12-year-old, and even a 16-year-old. So I still have to say, who is the man behind the throne? Who was driving this child?
Gwilda, I honestly think that when he came to the West, first of all, in India, it was a poverty-stricken country, and wealth and materialism was something that was, I think, aspired to over there. And when he came to the West, he saw that the materialism in the West was great. The spiritual side of things was weak. And so when he came, people started giving him Rolls Royces, Mercedes Benzes, cars. I mean, they're thinking this guy is God. So that's coming his way. He's sucking it up. He's living the good life. And as I said, I think he got seduced by the whole thing. And power corrupts, wealth corrupts. And once it started rolling, he's off and running. And now you've got bills to pay. Now you've got cars to buy, planes to buy, etc. So I think it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just took on a life of its own, honestly.
There's a Native American concept. It's called Watiko, and I've interviewed a gentleman on it lately, and I know you know about it. Which is kind of a mind virus. In other words, that's when this narcissism and materialism takes over. Is that what you're talking about happened to him?
That's my opinion. It's not a fact, but my opinion when I think about Watika, yes. And that's what I mean by consumed by one shadow. Because his behavior went off the rails. I mean, he not only did he drink, but then he would be abusive. And not only would he be abusive, he took joy in humiliating people for his own pleasure. He had affairs with female followers, so he used his position power inappropriately. And it went on and on. So, this is what the followers of Prem Rawat either don't want to know about or do know about, and they don't care because they justify it saying, well, he brought me peace. And and I just can't buy that. It's just there's a lot. He did a lot of good for many people, but he did a lot of harm for even more people who suffered because they gave away their young 20-year-old years or their inheritance or whatever you might want to, whatever they did, and some of them never recovered. So.
Well, once again, it's time for another station break. Don and I will be right back to continue our discussion, so stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
Searching through the night, one people, one nation. Searching for the light, one people, one nation. Coming from the stars, one people, one nation. To heal this earth, I've been broken, shattered, cast to the wind. I am scattered upon the wind. I've been broken, shattered, cast to the wind. I am scattered upon the wind. I've been broken, shattered, cast to the wind.
What's it like to wake up and realize you're in a cult? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing the impact of cult mentality is Don Johnson. His website, bemoreconscious.com. Don, once you recognized it was indeed a cult, did you try to enlighten others that were also involved in this?
At first, I had to sort things out myself, meaning when I kind of woke up in 2002, primarily after a lot of what I've been talking about came out on the internet, which is things I didn't know about, I had to wrestle with, like, what did I just do with my life? Kind of a question. Like,
I'm sorry, how long were you in the cult at this point?
Well, full time when I was from 1973 to 1984, I was in the ashram. So I was like very deeply involved. Mm-hmm. Then I left and I just started a new life. When I was 33 years old, I came out, I was dead broke, and I started a career and a family and so on. And I drifted away. I just didn't pay much attention to it because it was survival now. I had to fight for my own, life, so to speak. So in 2000, so I didn't really pay attention to Prem Rawat. I thought there was, something a little bit off, but I wasn't really sure what the whole story was. So in 2002, when I went to this online website and I read eyewitness accounts from Prem Rawat's right-hand man who knew everything and who resigned and left, he wrote, look, here, he parted the curtain. He said, this is what's behind the curtain. So when I read that, and I reported to this guy, so I was the president of the cult from 1980 till 1984, and I reported to this guy, and so I really respected him. So when I read his statements, I just said, oh, it's worse than I thought. It really was.
So you've been having some inkling and decided it wasn't the place for you to be, but once this came out from this gentleman, then you started recognizing the depth of it?
Yes, and there's more, which I'll get to. So this was the big eye-opener for me and a lot of people when the internet came out and there were early blogs and things like that. So I read this and my head kind of spun around like Linda Blair and the witch, what was the show?
I think it was The Exorcist.
The Exorcist, yeah. So my head's spinning around and I'm reading this going, are you kidding me? It was this bad behavior. So at that point, I just said, okay, what do I do? Like, did I all these things that coalesced and brought me in my life to this point where I thought this was it? How do I untangle all of that? So psychologically, it was a lot to unpack. And I did that work and I came to a place where I said, okay, he's flawed. The experience of meditation that I have is not flawed. For me, it works. I like it. It didn't have anything to do with him anyway, which was a revelation at first, because I thought in the beginning what I experienced had something to do with him. Turns out that was false. That was a false belief. And so I said, okay, I'm going to continue to maintain a spiritual practice. They're not his techniques anyway, as I said earlier. and I'm going to go ahead and live my life, but I somehow have to untangle mentally from the belief that this guy was somewhat special. And now I'm having to face the fact that the guy that I trusted and thought was special was actually nefarious and deceitful and full of deception. So I carried on with my life, Gwilda, up for years after that. I just said, I'm just going to live. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to move on. Then, because I'm going to answer your point about helping other people, then I started writing on medium.com in 2020. And I wrote an article about how I untangled myself from a cult, from this cult. It went out there, people read it, and it started circulating. And then a year later, the wife of the youngest son of Prem Rawat, yes, so Prem Rawat had 2 boys and 2 girls with his wife. So the wife of the youngest son read my article and reached out to me and said, I'd like to talk to you because there's some things that we share in common. And I thought, well, this is interesting. So I had a chat with this lovely woman, and we found that we had a lot in common. And she said, I need to tell you some things about how my husband, the youngest son, was treated by Prem Rawat. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but suffice it to say that he was mistreated badly by his father. And when I heard this, I said, wow, this is, again, worse than I thought. And so I went and I visited her, and then I became friends with the son. And I'm friends with him to this day. And when I met with them, I heard more about this, about his upbringing and how he lived. And then at that point, I said, final straw, I cannot keep my mouth shut any longer. So I'm going to continue to write, and I'm going to do the best that I can to bring the truth about Prem Rawat out to the world. So I wrote more articles on Medium, and started to spend more time talking with these 2 individuals and so forth. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to support you guys. And they've now become estranged. They've been cut off from the family. There's been difficulty in any reconciliation, and it's turned into a pretty unfortunate situation. And so I'm involved in a couple of projects to bring the truth about Prem Rawat out to the public. And that involves getting that story out into the media. And there's a couple of things that are early in the works that I don't want to say too much about, but suffice it to say that there's a lot more effort that's going to be put into bringing not just my story, but the whole story of Prem Rawat and what he's doing. So yes, I'm committed to helping others, learn about this. And
so Don, you say what he's doing. So he's still at it?
oh, Gwilda, he's still at it. And this is the thing that is upsetting to some people that have children, is that, particularly the husband and wife that I'm mentioning, is that he's now developed campaigns that reach into prisons. He's got campaigns that reach into school systems targeting children. And I have to do a quick aside, and if we're going to do a station break, I can finish the story. But the part of the deal here is that there were Mahatmas, these Indian men that I mentioned earlier, that were under his watch in the 70s and 80s, that at the time, we didn't know this, they were sexual predators. They sexually molested young women that were daughters of followers of Prem Rawat. There were individuals who were actually raped by some of his followers, and there was little attention paid. Blind eye. Some of these people were then escorted out of the country, sent back to India. They were never prosecuted, and there were and we can't necessarily prove that Prem Rawat knew about it, but there's suspicion, and there was enough talk going around that it's hard to believe that he didn't. So the fact that he's now going into schools or education systems is quite appalling to many people that are involved in this sort of Prem Rawat movement, if you will. So again, things that we find are not healthy. This is not something that we want to see promoted at all.
Well, I've heard, this isn't the first I've heard about cults being, it seems like they draw the predators because you've got a
Hmm.
bunch of sheep that have given away
Hmm.
their power,
Hmm.
which is a great place to go in and take advantage of the children. Um,
Yeah.
so, but you don't know if he knew or not, and you don't know if he participated or not.
No, I can't. I can't say I can't unequivocally say he knew about this. It was reported after the fact, so to speak, and it got lost in sort of the shuffle of bureaucracy. But I know other things that were done whereby individuals that committed a crime, an assault and battery, were in the U.S. In the 70s, were escorted out of the country secretly to protect them from being prosecuted.
So
And
you
it was
by escorted, you mean by their own people?
by the people within Divine Light Mission and people that I
Gotcha.
knew, that I later worked with. I didn't know about this at the time, but later I found out about it when I became the president of Elan Vital. But so there's a lot of dirt under the carpet.
So how, as a person that was a president of this mess,
Mhm.
how have you worked through that? That you were involved, whether unwittingly or not, you were involved in this abomination.
I was. I was indeed, and because I believed, and I didn't. I the Prem Rawat had a close circle of people around him that were called X-rated followers, and they were sworn to secrecy. And nowadays, people that are around him have to sign an NDA, and they cannot speak about what they see or hear. They know that going in. And I know people who are now under NDAs as recent as even 10 years ago, who have seen all kinds of behavior. They can't speak about it under that NDA. So this is a guy who, if you're going to work for him, the first thing you got to do, you got to sign the NDA, because he's got the public persona, a global peace ambassador, an author, man of peace, and yet there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and this is what's wrong, is this inconsistency, this deception.
If you were, excuse me, and we're about out of time in this segment, but if you were to tell somebody where to look, the
Yeah.
first cue that you've got that there's something wrong here, that you might be in a cult, what would it be?
You, I think the given the fact that we've got the internet, if you start digging, you're going to find people who know where the dirt is, and the chances are you're going to find it out there.
Well, it's that magic moment, looks like. It's time to take another station break. Please stay with us as Don and I continue to explore the seductive nature of a cult. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. escape be more painful than staying put? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Don Johnson. His website, bemoreConscious.com. Don, what was it like once you really realized that I need to get out of here and I needed to point out to other people? What was your exit like? Was it easy? Was it smooth? What did it cost you?
Yeah, mine was, for me, it was more gradual. As I mentioned, it was kind of a process that had a few different sort of flashpoints, and was it, the little headline as we came in here, is it more painful to stay in a cult or more painful to leave? The thing is, when you're in it, you're blind and you don't know it, so everything's fine. At least you think that. I think the initial phase of leaving is painful for many, and I've experienced that myself. I've had people reach out to me after they've read my articles on Medium, saying, "I'm a little confused. This is really hard." And I go, "Yeah, I know it's hard. I get it." And I think once you get onto the other side, where I am now, and I think, well, I've been in this thing for 50 years now, and I'm still involved in it. This is the baffling thing about this. And I could let this go, Gwilda. I could just walk away and not talk to you, not write any articles, not do anything. And for me personally, I couldn't live with myself that way, knowing what I know. So now I feel liberated. I feel there's something of service that I can do to help people that are still in it, who are on the fence. I don't try to go after the people that are still in the cult. It's pointless. Who are deeply entrenched. They have no interest in anything that I'm saying, anything that I'm doing. The people that are open somewhat for some reason, those are the people that a message like this might be useful. And for people listening that might be in a different cult or might be in some other situation whereby they're giving their power away, maybe this is a wake-up call to say, be careful. Be careful about what you believe. How do you know it's true?
What do you think that a lot of cults have in common as far as what they're offering their people, that the people are willing to shut down their common sense?
It's a hell of a question. I think some cults, and the Premrawat cult was one of those, which promoted the idea that your mind is bad. Your mind is the enemy. So anything that comes from other than your heart isn't to be trusted. And that message is a dangerous message. It really, really is. We have hearts, we have minds, and we're all of that. They're all that. We're a part of it. They're part of us. So I think the message is be careful. Be careful. Do your due diligence. Maintain your own balance. Find your own power. Within. We have everything that we need within us. We don't need a guru to show us how to find our own spirit and soul. We don't need that. I think people have believed that in the past. I believed it. I believed I needed a teacher to show me the techniques. I think the mistake that people make is they think they put too much emphasis on the teacher. They think without the teacher, I can't do it. And that's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
So very, very often does the teacher take techniques from someplace else, like Primrata did, that are good, standard, tried and true, ancient, and then associate themselves with it. This is my wisdom. This is my knowledge, and without me, you can't have it.
Yep, that's what he did. That's what he did. So people have an inner experience and they see the guy on stage saying, hey, there's this inner experience, I can show it to you. And then they see all of his loyal followers saying the same thing. Hey, there's this amazing experience, and without Prem Rawat, the second coming, the master, then we would be nothing. You must follow him, you must devote yourself to him. Then people start thinking, oh, well, so I'm connecting my experience internally, and then I'm projecting it externally, and I'm putting the whole things together, and I'm thinking now I'm connected to him. And he has something to do with my inner experience, which is false. It's not true. This is
Don,
yeah, so that's fine.
It's about that time in the show when I get to ask you, what's your mission?
Yeah. My mission with regard to this topic is to be honest, to be fair, to be accurate, to call out what I see as blatant inconsistencies in Prem Rawat's message and how he behaves himself. Okay, granted, he's changed his title from perfect master, or it was at one time people would say he was the Lord of the universe, and then in the 80s he just became Maharaji, and then in the 90s or the 2000s now he's become an author and a global peace ambassador. Okay, so he's changed his public positioning, but behind the scenes I know that people that are loyal followers to him still look at each other and go, they kind of give each other the wink, this little sniff test, and go, yeah, he can say all that, but we know what he really is. And recently, at a big event in Australia, he just said this: the coming and going of this breath is my blessing. Now, if that's not narcissistic, psychopathic, megalomaniac statement, I don't know what is. So yeah.
Do you think that Prem Rawat is aware that he's a cult leader, or does he buy his own press?
Oh, God. Oh, Lord, you ask wild questions, don't you?
That's why you pay me the big bucks.
That's right. I think, and I haven't listened to him a whole lot over the years, people tell me that he sounds a little bit more human than he has in the past, admitting mistakes perhaps, or saying something that's a little more human. That may all be well and good. But the behavior that I see, he's never explained his story. He's never apologized for saying he was the perfect master, and yet he really wasn't. So he's never admitted in public that what he did back in those early days was wrong. So my mission is calling that out, because it's absolutely not right. He shouldn't be doing this, and nobody's holding him to account. Nobody is holding that man to account. So my mission is to do my part, whatever that part is. I'll do my best. I'll give my best. I'll leave it out there. No expectations. Whatever happens is going to happen, but I'm going to give it my best. And there's a bunch of people that I'm involved with that are absolutely committed to doing the same thing. And, we'll give it our best shot, Gwilda, and we'll see what happens.
So, Don, what did breaking away from a cult teach you about how false or limiting beliefs can negatively impact your whole life?
Yeah, I mean, I write about this a little bit in my book, about the power of beliefs, and how that when we develop a belief, it can keep us small. It can keep us down. And I encourage people to discover where your false beliefs are, and get them out, write them down, do whatever is needed, so that you can live a life that's full, that's rich, that's conscious, that's, that you can search for the best of what's possible. And I think that's the mission here, is to call out what's not right, but to allow oneself to be really who we are. We're full. We're beautiful beings. We don't give ourselves enough credit oftentimes. And the little talkative mind that keeps us down is that purveyor of those false beliefs. You're not good enough. You can't do this. You don't deserve everything. Those stories are beliefs that have no place in anyone's life. We're beautiful beings, and I think we just need to celebrate our beauty, the power that we have as humans to do good in this world. That's really what I hope we can all strive for.
Do you believe that it's shutting down from being open to new information that makes you more vulnerable to a cult?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do, because it doesn't, whatever doesn't fit into your belief system, it doesn't matter what it is. If you shove it away and go, it doesn't match up, then we just limit ourselves. We stop learning, we stop growing, we stop questioning. And I think when we stop questioning, we start losing, our humanity. Without being curious, I think we just become stale. We become brittle. We
And
become
quite exploitable as well.
and quite exploitable. Yep, you got it. Hmm.
Well, unfortunately, Don, we could go on forever, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show and being the brave person you are to share this.
My pleasure, Gwilda, and thank you for creating this platform for this kind of dialogue to occur. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Our guest this hour has been Don Johnson, the author of Living a Conscious Life. To find out more about Don, visit his website, bemoreconscious.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. To enjoy past archived episodes, visit missionevolution.org. But please, be sure to join me right here next time. This mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to an evolving world.
Nation.